Hello everybody, so here is Black Angel again, and I'm here with a video that I will have to make short, even if I'm not very good at making short videos, but I still have 10 minutes. I was actually going to do something else, but then I was struck by this idea, and I had to go through and actually do this video. I'm very tired. Anyway, what I want to tell you about is something that I've been thinking. So I have been made to notice that I didn't point out what should be done with people I was describing in my last video. So my last video was about TI vulnerable, so people that lack TI and how they behave and how they handle situations and stuff. So how do you actually handle these people? How do you deal with people of this kind? Now, if you were, I should probably say, an ENTJ or an ESTJ or an INTJ or an ISTJ, you would naturally know how to behave, because by merely being one of those types, you're going to behave in such a way that EXFPs and ENFPs are going to be able to receive information from you. So if you're not one of those types, though, what could you do? Or what can you do if someone in your life, like for example a parent or a brother, is one of these types and you need to reach out to them? So ESFPs are extroverted sensing types, and as an extroverted sensing dominant, they tend, ESTPs actually listen to what others say and then they consider it and then take their decision. ESFPs instead do not listen to what others say, and they just go for what they believe is right and good, because their extroverted sensing is based on their sense of appropriateness. So, or their sense of appropriateness is rather based on what they want. So the difference is ESTP, what I want and what is logic. The ESFP instead is what I want and what I like. This is basically how these two types work. So being what I want and what I like, they're very, very me-oriented, very, very them-oriented. That's what I mean. So very, very, very self-oriented. And being a very, very self-oriented makes them not very inclined to listening to others, because they have this tendency to look down to others. So they consider themselves superior. So if you tell them you should probably do this thing this way if you want to achieve a better result, they're not going to listen, like I said in my video. So what do you do to actually reach them and let them understand that something they're doing is counterproductive for themselves, for them? You basically need to think of something about INTJs we do not like to talk about very often, because INTJs are touchy-feely, so we try to leave them alone. INTJs are an introverted intuition type. Now, as an introverted intuition type, they tend to be elitarian. So introverted intuition has an accent of elitarianism. So there's always this background of intellectual elitarianism when you have to do with an introverted intuition dominant. When it comes to INTJs, you got that elitarianism paired with logic, so with knowledge. So they consider themselves to be the most elitarian and most knowledgeable people that there is on Earth. And that's how they're going to handle you, how they're going to behave with you. So at a first sight, they're going to behave in such a way that they're going to make you think that that they're actually not knowing much, and they don't know much, and they're actually nobody. But then all of a sudden they're going to start telling you how things are, and they start they're going to start lecturing you about how you should behave and how things should be. They can even start preaching pretty badly and become judgmental and create rules out of the blue, and they are going to use public opinion as a support, public opinion, data, and facts, factual information, sources, very reliable sources, and so on. Everything they have in their backpack, they're going to pull out as a gun and use it against the person that is in front of them. And then that's when they're going to show their elitarianism and their elitarian attitude. If you want an idea of an INTJ, I would suggest, I'm not sure the character is actually an INTJ, but the elitarian kind of Nazi behavior of Janine, the erudite leader in Divergent, is probably going to give you an idea of what kind of an erudite an INTJ could be. So ESFPs, at first you approach them by looking ignorant, and then all of a sudden you start throwing dictionaries at them, basically, and encyclopedias of knowledge. But you have to have extremely reliable data, and everything you say needs to be 100% bulletproof. So that's an INTJ, and that's how INTJs would behave. That INTJs behave this way is only the source where I get how to handle the type. This doesn't mean that an ESTP wouldn't be able to do that. For example, an ESTP would be perfectly able to do that because they have the bullets, they have the guns, and they have the ability to be what they need to be, just as much as an INFJ and other types. For INFJs, it's going to probably be a little bit more complicated because INFJs lack the weapons required to actually face an ESFP, which is factual information, facts coming from extremely reliable sources according to public opinion. That's what I'm talking about. An INFJ could come with a book that was of a doctor that was alienated from the doctor. From the doctors that cannot practice anymore, but that developed a theory, and that was actually sent out because he made that theory. But the INFJ believes that that theory actually makes sense because of a couple of things and a couple of connections with other theories. And the INFJ is going to rely on that because that to the INFJ actually makes more sense than anything that science is supporting at the moment and public opinion agreeing with. So yeah, ENFPs are, in my opinion, less and more complicated simultaneously. Like I said in my previous videos, ENFPs tend to have this intellectual streak, not elitarian, but intellectual streak. They're very interested in everything intellectual. So your ENFPs are going to be types that are very, very interested in literature, for example, or reading poetry as a hobby. They're probably going to be like, I don't know, your pedagogy teacher or professor at the university that studied everything that there is to study about pedagogy and knows all the most recent researches about the topic. And simultaneously, when they're home, they're going to read Zarathustra or, I don't know, literary books of any kind. And they have an extremely wide knowledge that they're the self-esteem of these two types, the ESFP and ENFP, is based on knowledge. And the ENFPs I met in my life normally focused more on literary fields, so in humanistic fields. I met a couple that actually studied neuroscience and more scientific studies. It can happen, but on a general basis, they're more oriented towards poetry, literature, and all this kind of stuff. So we're talking about someone that is cultured and intellectual in some way with very strong intuition. We're going to talk about extrovert intuition in another situation though. So the way ISTJs normally face any issue with an ENFP's knowledge and with an ENFP's thinking, actually, is by throwing them in trouble, basically. So there's something similar to other types actually here, but I see, for example, my uncle is an ISTJ and my aunt is an ENFP. And so just to tell you how far we are from the example, my aunt is actually she sews ballet dresses for ballerinas. So that's a fully different field, but she's extremely creative anyway. So when my aunt gets blocked in some way and she doesn't get or grasp something, or she's in some way not developing the thought, my uncle starts bubbling, boiling like a pan on the stove with water within boiling like crazy. And he starts telling weird stuff, and he starts quite looking like an idiot if you look at him. And then she kind of has this nurse instinct, and she starts helping him in some way, try to solve this matter of anxiety or anger or whatever. And through this whole process, what happens is that he starts telling her how to think to solve the problem. So basically, other types like ESCPs, for example, or INTPs also, can tell you they're in trouble to make you solve their problems when actually you're solving your own problem while telling them how to solve their own. The INTJs, the ISTJs is doing something different here. They are putting the ENFP in such a position that they open up to listening to help the other person emotionally. So it's an emotional open up. And in this emotional open up, they're more receptive to whatever the ISTJ is going to tell them. And they're going to pour on them their knowledge, their factual information. They're also very good at gathering knowledge, obviously. And they're going to pour on them this bulks of factual information, and the ENFP is going to grasp and use it to make the ISTJ feel better because they were so nervous and angry. They're going to take the knowledge and actually make use of it. So that's how an ENFP reacts. So basically what I'm trying to say is that if you want to be listened by an ENFP in a moment in which they're not hearing you, what you probably need to do is make their nurse instinct surface their need to help others surface so that they're going to be ready to listen to your emotional outburst in some way, or actually blabbering. And this blabbering should actually be filled with information. So it's basically like the pizza example in the other video. If we take the pizza example in the other video, and the ENFP saying, well, I probably would rather get the 8 pieces because 12 pieces is more pieces. So what if I cannot eat the 4 pieces more? The INTJ will start doing like, oh my God, what the fuck is she talking about? What are you talking about? And you cannot actually grasp every word the ISTJ is saying. And then the ENFP is going to see this reaction and worry about the ISTJ or about you if you do that. And she's going to go like, what's wrong? What is going on? What is wrong with you? What happened? Why are you reacting that way? So the ISTJ is going to start, or you should start pouring out reasons why the reasoning doesn't work, and not actually reasons, but I cannot make you an example because it's a way I don't think by. So it's a matter of listing things from public opinion, for example, like Something that can come to mind from my uncle's bubbling moments can be, what would people think of you if you said something like that in public? That's something that my uncle could say. That would put the ENFP on the spot, and in that the ENFP would step back because she would assume that her thought or his thought is bad, wrong, and not socially acceptable. So they're going to step back and reformulate their thoughts. So they're probably going to say something like, oh, no, I didn't mean that I wouldn't get the pieces, but I only meant that I don't know how I would handle the 12 pieces over the 8 pieces, but it's probably the same for me to get both. That's the way. So blabbering something or either knowledge or something about public opinion and what people may think will help them. But there has to be this kind of weird and odd reaction, because otherwise the ENFP is not going to respond in a way that opens their mind to listening. So yeah, I was elaborating part of it while talking, because I don't have this kind of issue with ENFPs around me, because I don't have a lot of ENFPs around me. I don't really surround myself with ENFPs, to be honest. No particular reason, just doesn't happen. T types in general don't really revolve around me much. Anyway, yeah, I have more experience with ESFPs, direct experience with ESFPs. Anyway, yeah, I thought to share this stuff because I think it's important in some way. And sorry if I was a little bit not particularly concentrated. It's just because it's almost 1 o'clock over here and I'm extremely tired. So I'll close this thing here and I will talk to you soon.